the Golden Knights, they take out the Stars 6-0, but a very impressive win. Early on, where's your lean for the Stanley Cup champions?
I think you got to go with Vegas. I mean, they're the better team on paper. The issue, the rest versus rust type of thing, is Florida going to come out slow in the first couple of games, but can they spot them a game or two? Or if they split in Vegas, of course, that's great for them. But I just think Vegas has too much going for them. I worry a bit, obviously, in net, but Adin Hill's done what he's needed to do. It's at this point, you kind of have to just say, he's good enough right now. Do I want to sign him to a 5-year contract? Probably not, but you'll take him for the next 4 to 7 games. And but I just like what Jack Eichel's been able to do. Guys like Marchessault and Smith and Carlson, they're just a really, really deep lineup. It's always been a deep lineup because of the way that the expansion draft worked, and they got a bunch of second and third liners, and they made them a really good, I think, hard team to play against. And then, of course, they added throughout in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, Vegas, 16 goal scorers. Florida, I just mentioned, 15 goal scorers. If you go through the previous champions, Colorado had 16. Tampa, during their back-to-back, had 16. The Blues had 20. The Capitals, when they won the Cup last, had 18. So it's clearly really important to have depth scoring, Sharm.
I just love what they've done from day one, right? I mean, George McPhee comes in there, then Kelly McCrimmon in more recent years. They don't care about trading popular players. They will move players for potential stars. And they've done it over and over again. Nate Schmidt, remember him, was so popular. He leaves. Fleury, really popular, the face of the franchise in some regards. He leaves. In comes the likes of Jack Eichel. Good players, potential superstar players. They're always doing something. They're so aggressive at deadlines and throughout the summer. It seems so easy, right, to build a contender. We know it's not, but they seem to get it right every single time.
They did a really, really good job on that expansion draft, too. We were talking about it off air, about the trades that they made, with the Riley Smith, Marchessault. They got Andre Fleury. And not just got them, made these picks. They got pieces for them. They got Smith just so they would draft Jonathan Marchessault. Is unbelievable there. Tuck's another player. Carrier was a big player. Theodore was a big player. Lots of these guys that are still around on this team that, like you say, George McPhee did an unbelievable job. Made it really more difficult for Seattle, but we saw how successful they were as well, coming out, making the playoffs, making a little bit of a run here in their second year. So I like what this team has all the way through their lineup. Again, from the goaltending perspective, maybe not, but like you say, you get a guy gets hot. We've seen it before, and then we've seen teams win. Chicago did it a lot during their runs of winning with, I don't want to say bad goaltending, because it wasn't bad goaltending, but not with a big name, not with a $9 million, $10 million goaltender like we're seeing with Bobrovsky.
Yeah, it's almost the goalie needs to be just good enough, Sharms.
I was say, how many teams do you think right now in the NHL, if they would just tear it all up, release all their players, have an expansion draft, and try again? I think there'd be a number of teams, given what we've seen Seattle do and obviously Vegas.
Yeah.
It's a way to build a team. With the new expansion rules the way they are, it's not like it used to be when you really get bad players. You're always getting good players these times. And there's probably 5 or 6 teams right now who say, yep, we just start from scratch.
I think a lot of it was it's so expensive to buy into this, to get a franchise, that they're like, the team has to be good out of the gate. And also they know that, especially when you're going into some of these markets, Seattle is at least a cooler market, but when I say with weather-wise, but Vegas was a bit of a question mark. And if they were to go somewhere else with expansion, if that were to happen, which I don't think it will anytime soon, but if it did, you don't want the team to be garbage. It just can't be garbage out of the gate, because you're trying to create, you got to create some excitement, right? And Marc-Andre Fleury being the face of that franchise, and obviously with the tragedy that happened right before that first season, a lot of it, there was some sort of just aura around that team at that time.
And a fantastic fan base too, which I love. And I think both these home teams, or the home games, is going to be absolutely electric. Let's talk about the goalies. Obviously, Sergei Bobrovsky, the number one guy, .935 save percentage, been the best goalie in the playoffs. It's not even close. But then you have Adin Hill. Not the number one guy. Brossoit goes down against the Oilers. He comes in. Hasn't been, I don't want to say he's been spectacular, but he's been good enough. He makes timely saves. Couple of shutouts, one more last night. It might sound like a stupid question, but who has the edge in net right now?
You got to go with Bobrovsky. This is a guy that's won a Vezina before. He's a $10 million goaltender. Streaky, I suppose, and he's streaky right now, and this is the right time to be that. It's interesting that neither of these goaltenders were the goaltender of choice heading into the playoffs for either of these teams, and that seems to be the new thing. If you don't have a Shesterkin or a Vasilevsky or maybe a handful of other guys, if that at all, you're expected to use 2 of them, and so who's going to be the last one standing? It's hard to know, but Bobrovsky certainly, I think he's got a bit of the edge here.
Yeah, I agree too. I think maybe the question should be, if Adin Hill and Bobrovsky both lay an egg in the Stanley Cup Finals, which team has the advantage then?
Sorry, say that. If
So
both of them are bad,
Bobrovsky and Adin Hill both poo-poo out there on the ice the
Yeah.
entire Stanley Cup Finals. Who has the edge?
I think Vegas does because the way the Florida plays, they turn the puck over a lot. They give a lot of grade A chances, and if you don't have a goaltender that can bail you out, that we've seen him do on numerous occasions in the Toronto series, in the Boston series, and even against Carolina as well, he's been unbelievable. But that comes from, I think, just the poor kind of management of the puck that Florida has at times, and if he's not on his game, a lot of those games could be 5-6, 7-0.
Absolutely, you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they've shown it from day one how good they are throughout the season as well. I just wonder back to goalies. I mean, how this affects the goalies markets moving forward, with the exception of the 4 or 5 legitimate number ones. What kind of team is going to commit big money to a goaltender when it's such a fickle position?
You can't.
I mean, you better get 2 or 3 pretty good guys who might catch fire at the right time than put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Yeah.
I think moving forward, maybe we're seeing it already. I think we probably are. We saw the efficiency class last year. There was no big signing, right? Was there? It's a strange time.
Well, Bobrovsky will pay off that $10 million with a cup.
Oh,
yes,
for sure.
Finally. But who'd have guessed?
But
Yeah, exactly. Who'd have
He
guessed?
could be
It's
terrible
true.
next year.
Yeah.
Is this is goaltending the quarterback position or the running back position? Is it the starting pitching position or the closer's position? Like it because if it's, to me, it's the quarterback position. It's one of the most important positions in sports, and yet you don't draft a goalie. It should be incumbent on every GM, if I owned a team, to say draft 3 of them. We might as well try and find.
But your number
find
one
somebody.
guy, clearly your number one guy doesn't have to be that good to get into the playoffs. Like Alex Lyon was the one down the stretch who got them in.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you, but I just feel like
I get what you're saying. It's really
the
important.
only player on the ice for 60 minutes a night.
True.
And the 2 number ones, Hellenbrook, Vasilevsky, Shesterkin, where are they right now?
Yeah.
They're all playing golf.
Absolutely, and you guys are right from a you can get hot and you only got to win 16 games and all that stuff. But I just feel that position is so vital, and if you want to take it back to a betting standpoint, when the backup goalie's in, the odds shift. And that's because in reality, the number one goaltender is usually significantly better than your backup. Now, a lot of these teams have gone from the 1A, 1B style, but if you're going to treat it like the running back position, which is just by committee and do all that stuff, that's fine. I just think it's a risky proposition if your main goal is to make sure you're confident that you can win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and I also believe that you need to have an adequate backup. No longer the days where you just have one guy who rides the entire season, gets into the playoffs, and he plays nearly every single game. You need a backup who can get the job done and win some games for you too, just in case 1 or 2 of them go down in the playoffs.
But also, if you're not going to play a guy 75 games like you used to with a Brodeur and even back before
doesn't happen anymore.
So now you can't punt 25 games. That's 50 points. You just can't do that, right? So you need a backup that's going to get you at least 500.
But maybe fast forward 10 years, there's a wealth of world-class goaltenders coming up through junior hockey right now or midget hockey right now, and in 10 years' time, here we are. Here's the Brodeur era once again, the Patrick Roy era once again. Maybe it's just a lull right now. These things are always circular, right?
Yeah.
In sports, it seems.
I just feel that the investment isn't there from teams too. Like you don't see teams draft a goaltender, not even just in the first round, almost in any rounds. They're like, you go figure it out somewhere else, and undrafted players come through. They bring them over from Europe. I just feel like if you look at the NFL draft, like they'll draft the 12th best quarterback just to have one because it's such an important role that maybe he'll end up being pretty good. Well, I just don't think there's an investment into goaltender development because at 18, 19, when you have to make that decision, they're not confident in it. But to me, when you're talking about 6th, 7th, and 8th rounds, like how many of these guys end up in the NHL anyway? Forwards, defensemen, whatever. Might as well roll the dice because it's such a vital role.
I think it's because there's other priority positions. It's so difficult to find a true top center. You can't really trade for one, and especially one that scores goals. You could probably go through the draft. And also a defenseman that can eat up minutes, play on the penalty kill, play in the power play, and put up points. I mean, how many of those guys are out there? I mean, Erik Karlsson, Victor Hedman.
Yeah.
Right? There's not many. So I get what you're saying. I think I'm totally with you. I think if there's a goalie that could come up through the system you can draft that can take over at some point, you definitely have to look at him. But I mean, I think it's different between regular season and the playoffs. Let's talk Conn Smythe a little bit. Let's go to Adin Hill. It opened, I think, at 11-1, is now plus 1,200 for Adin Hill to win the Conn Smythe. Sharms, if you're looking at Vegas, do you have a couple guys on your mind in terms of who can win this thing?
Well, I mean, it's so difficult. I mean, listen, there's still potentially 7 games left, right? So we can speculate. You know, this could be won or lost. There could be someone right now we're not even talking about who has this incredible Stanley Cup final. I mean, Jack Eichel's had a decent, well, more than a very good playoff so far.
He's at plus 370.
Yeah, has he been a world beater like Connor McDavid? No. So I'd love to see someone like Peter Angelo get some points and votes for it.
99-1, Sharms.
I mean, he's playing so much hockey right now, 24 minutes or thereabouts, more than anyone even close on his team. He's blocking shots, he's doing all the dirty work, he's slashing, getting suspended.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of evolved into this gnarly old veteran now from being that superstar that he once was in St. Louis. I would love to see a guy like that get a really big series and get some respect, but at this point, it comes down to the goaltenders.
Oh, 10 seconds.
You just got to decide what team you think is going to win, and then you can try and get a couple of them because there's no like minus 300 favorite like we have in the NBA right now, the Jokic. So find the team you like and take 3 or 4 guys.
All right, Bobby, thank you so much. We ran out of time, unfortunately. Coming up after the break, let's chat some Jays, Sharms. We're going to bring in Jordan Horbin to kind of figure out what's going on with the Jays as a kickoff another series against the Brewers starting tonight.